Hey everyone, Ready Reacts here, and today we're going to do something a little bit different from the usual full album reaction slash reviews. In this case, this album I've heard before, so it's less of a reaction, more of a review. I'm going to be kind of giving an analysis. I'm going to be talking about like how I overall feel about this album. I'm going to go song by song, starting with Make of It, of course, and ending with Back Around. And I'll give my thoughts after I listen to each song again, so they're fresh on my mind. And then I'll give my overall feel, or how I overall feel about the album at the very end. So it's basically just a short version of the full album reaction slash reviews, with less of a reaction, more of a review. I think you guys probably get what I'm saying now.
You made your point. We get it.
So yeah, I'm going to start with Make of It. And yeah, I guess let's get straight to it. Okay, so I think Make of It is an incredible intro track to this album. I think it really starts, like, off the bat, it shows how emotional this album is going to be and how much heart they really put into this album. Because in Make of It, there's lines such as, what, therapy saw me naked, my past is what I make of it. It's like, these things are kind of like private. Like, it's kind of like a private thing that they're talking about. But they're opening up just a little bit to the audience to really show that they're human, that they're just like everybody else. And I think going on like what makes them human, the way that he sings on this one, specifically this one, I think it's kind of throughout a lot of Half Alive songs, but it's not over the top. In the way that he sings, it just sounds so, again, so human. Like he's just another one of us. Like he goes through the same stuff that we have to. Just because he's like a singer and part of this band, he's no different from the rest of us.
We're the same, don't you see?
Like, we all have to deal with stuff. A lot of us go to therapy. A lot of us, we just go through things. And I don't know, it gives almost like a personal connection to the song too. I don't know, I really, really like that. And then there's a couple other lines that I just really like these new shoes, I'll break them in. I don't know, something about that line in particular, it just feels so nostalgic and kind of, it pulls on like that personal connection. Like everybody knows that like a lot of shoes, depending on what they are, of course, but they take a little bit to break in, especially things like leather and stuff. Or like if you have a baseball glove, those things take a while to break in. So off the bat, that's something that you can kind of relate to, breaking in shoes. And then comparing his life to new shoes and breaking them in, or I guess in particular, I think he says his past. Yeah, my past is what I make of it. Like these new shoes, I'll break them in. So it's like you have to deal with your past. It almost like your past is what breaks in your life, if that makes any sense. Your past is what got you to where you are now. So you have to go through the rough stuff at the beginning to get to more of a like a better life in the end. Like you build character through these things. But yeah, those are some of the major points on the song. Those are like the main takeaways for me. I mean, I do like how he talks about like old best friends and stuff, because everybody has, I don't know if he's saying that doesn't have these old best friends anymore necessarily, because he, right after he says all my friends I pray for him, after he says his old best friends, but everybody has those friends that they used to have, like they used to be great friends with. Over time you drift away. That's just how life works. And then of course you get new friends too. So I think that, again, that's another relatable thing that makes Half Alive more human. And like you can feel that connection with them. So yeah, overall I really, really love this song. It's a great intro track. I'm ready to listen to the next one. Okay, so Summerland, a very strong second song. This one, it might be my favorite on the album. I'm not sure yet. It kind of switches back and forth for me a little bit here and there. This one, it just feels so similar to the other one. I think I mentioned that with the first one. There's almost like a sense of nostalgia. Everything that he talks about, you just it's all just on the verge of being relatable while also being kind of vague, where he gets to keep his personal stuff to himself, at the same time sharing it with his audience. Oh wait, first let me talk about the production, because there's this at the very beginning, the production is so, I don't know, it immediately catches my attention every time that I hear the song. It like gets me excited to hear the rest of the song instantly. You know, there's like those sounds or those things that like they instantly kind of click with you. It's like fidget toys or something. Like it hits a certain part of your brain and it just feels awesome. That's what I get from the intro production on this one. And the production stays good throughout the song. I just think as soon as it hits at the beginning, like, you know, you're in for a good ride. So yeah, going back to the lines, there's a few that I really liked. Most of them are within the pre-chorus and chorus. Let me find them really quick. Oh yeah, so immediately where it's like, something about me makes it all feel better, baby. The part where he says baby right at the end, he lifts his voice a little bit for it. I really, really like that. It sounds awesome. And that goes for the rest of the pre-chorus too. I mean, it all sounds good. And then back to that kind of like personal connection with the line, it's like the hoodie you find anywhere forever. Everybody has a hoodie that they wear all the time. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me and say that you don't, because I don't know, hoodies are just so comfortable. Maybe I'm just being super biased. Maybe that's it. But I love hoodies. They're very comfortable. You can just kind of put them on whenever. They're nice in the winter especially, which kind of leads me into how this song and the last song, they seem to be either talking about kind of the transition of winter into the other seasons, so like spring and summer in particular. Because what was the last song it mentioned? Let me go back to it really quick. There was a line about winter somewhere. Okay, yeah, I kind of passed over it, but the lines in the other song, so I know I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but winter got me feeling down, next season I'll come around. That is reflected back into, I guess reflected might not be the right word, but it's brought back in to the theme of Summerland, where he's talking about how like winter's kind of like a dredge to get through, but it's all leading up to the great Summerland, where of course there's spring too, but he doesn't really mention that. I assume it's almost probably like a grouping, because at least in my head I kind of group spring and summer together and fall and winter together, so that's probably kind of what's going on right here. Or at least spring is kind of like the transition period into summer, which it literally is. But so yeah, he's talking about that in the last song, and then he brings it back in this song where it's like, when summer comes around, I'm gonna cut my hair. Which that line also is another good one. I really, really like that line too. When summer comes, I'm gonna cut my hair, take a long drive heading anywhere. Yeah, which, because as a person with long hair right now, you can't really see. I kind of got a bun right here. It feels nice to get a good haircut when summer comes around, because it just can get so hot and sweaty, especially if you're like working out or going on runs like I do. It feels nice to get some of those layers off. So that one I especially can relate to on a personal level, so I love that line. And then take a long drive heading anywhere, another banger line. If you've ever gone on a road trip with friends, that line I think hits a little more special. For me it especially does. I've gone on a few road trips with my friends over the years, and they've all been awesome. Even when they get rough because we've been around each other for too long, which that can happen if you hang out with your friends and are staying with them for like a week straight. You might get a little frustrated. That's part of it though. But you kind of like let that go. When I look back at it, I always look at it as a fun time. So yeah, I love that line. And then just the song as a whole, it just feels so catchy, especially the chorus though. The chorus and pre-chorus are so catchy. I really, really like them. And his voice, it just hits just right. And then when the bridge comes, the bridge, he loosens up his voice a little bit, sings it more softly leading up to the end. And that softness in his voice, I think that helps put more emotion into the idea of being happier once summer rolls around after sticking it out through winter. Because there's always what's that thing? Seasonal. Okay. I was thinking of seasonal affective disorder, where it's like a lot of people, they get depressed during like winter and fall, and then when summer comes around, it kind of lifts off a little bit. I personally don't get that as much, But like I understand it though. But that's kind of what this also makes me think of, is like that seasonal affective disorder, where it's like winter sucks, rolling into summer, you feel a lot happier, everything feels nicer. Can that be backwards too? I imagine it can be the opposite way around too. I'm not an expert, so I don't know. But in my head, I always think of it as winter being like winter and fall being the more depressing, sadder months, and then spring and summer being the happier, more like energetic seasons. I almost forgot. He talks about his friends in this one just like he did in the last one. I don't know. Again, it comes back to that. It's like a nostalgic feel to missing old friends or just wanting to hang out with the ones that you currently have. Overall, though, I really, really love this song. I think this one probably hits closest to home, at least so far after re-listening to it. Once I go through the other ones, I'll see if there's any other ones that I think maybe hit a little closer, but I think this one as a whole is definitely the most personal. It feels the most personal to me. Up next is What's Wrong. Okay, so that was What's Wrong. I really like this song too. No surprises here. I love the intro immediately, where he kind of has that vocal effect where it's like, the time's always right to fix what's wrong. It's kind of like a slight robotic effect, and it like I was talking about with the last song, I forget which sound I was talking about, but it scratches my brain just in the right spot, kind of like a fidget toy or whatever, where it's so perfect. They bring it back, where's it at? Right after the bridge. They do it again, and I love that too. It almost feels like they're incorporating this vocal effect and singing into the instrumental, which I know, hear me out, I know that's kind of what songs are, but it feels more melded into it versus like other parts of different songs. Like in this one, like I wouldn't say the bridge feels like that necessarily, or like most of the song doesn't feel like it's necessarily incorporated into the instrumental itself, but that little bit with the vocal effect at the very beginning and at the start of right after the bridge, I think does. If you know what I mean, let me know, because I feel like I might be the only person that feels like that about that, but it definitely, I don't know, that's kind of how it resonates with me. So as for my notes on this one, I wrote down, oh yeah, this one right here, because every could have been kills me. Could have been, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Everybody has those things that they regret, or they look back on and wish they could have done something different or could have done something else. And it feels like this is almost like he's trying to say you need to let go of those could have beens and really focus on what's in store, what's up next. You gotta let go of your past in a way without forgetting, because we gotta be mindful, because that seems to kind of be a theme of this album so far, is like use your past to build yourself into a better person. Don't forget it, but don't dwell on it either. And I think this line in particular really, really points that out and makes that, like, it really shows that is the theme so far out of the songs we've heard. And that also ties into just the main kind of like idea of the song, time's always right to fix what's wrong. So those things that you could be dwelling on in the past, you can let them go over time, because time heals all wounds. Of course, that's a common saying. It's been around for a long time.
They say time heals all wounds. They say time heals all wounds.
Time heals all wounds.
So over time, those things become not less impactful. They shouldn't be sitting on you as much, because you just need to let them go. In time, like over time, you'll just start feeling better about a lot of things. That doesn't go for everything. I know some things are more permanent, but usually there's some sort of effect given by time where after years go by, you start to let things go or look at them in a more happier light. So like going back to my example where I was on like road trips with my friends, where it's like at the time I might have been miserable for a little bit, staying in a place with them for 5 days straight. But past that, I always look back at it as a good time. Time definitely healed that up a little bit. It's definitely become a happier memory after that. Excuse me. Oh, I also wrote down this line. I'm sure everybody that's watching this video, first of all, I guarantee a lot of you have already heard this band, or if you're not, you're just a awesome person checking out my video for fun. But I guarantee all of you that have heard this album and like this song you all have to like this line. So yippee-ki-yay, it's not my blood. That line is so fun. It's a fun line. I love singing it. I love hearing it. It's the only time I've ever heard that in a song, that phrase, because it's kind of like a cowboy phrase from what I know. But yippee-ki-yay, it's not my blood. It's so catchy, and I love hearing it. It's so fun. Past that, I do have to mention, I think the bridge is definitely the weakest part of this song. Usually I like bridges because they kind of lead up into like a grand ending to a song. In this case, I think it's a little boring. It doesn't match the tone of the rest of the song as well. I'm not saying I don't like it, but I feel like it could have been better. I don't know. Overall though, I really do love this song. Anyways, let's get to the next song. Okay, so Everything Machine. I think this is the weirdest song on this album just because it feels so out of place. Compared to the last few, it just feels like it's a completely different tone. Like it just kind of, it picks up a bit more. The other ones are more, what's a good way to put this?
2 hours later.
Okay, so hear me out. This is going to sound a little weird, but this is kind of how I'm thinking about it in my head. So the other ones feel more like spacious, like you're kind of like in a space on your own. Well, this one kind of feels like you're getting put into a crowd out of nowhere, or like you're sitting in an empty train station and then all of a sudden the train comes by. That is Everything Machine. So it's an Everything Machine train, and it just kind of hits you out of nowhere, and it just feels so off. And I know I'm saying that as if it's like a bad song. I don't think it's a bad song. I do think it's probably my least favorite on the album, but I do really like the song still. I think my biggest issue with it is that it just feels so out of place. But despite that, I do have a few things to say about it that I wrote down. So starting off, I never really thought about it too much, but this one kind of comes in with like a groovy bass line, which isn't really like the other ones on this album. That's another difference between that one and the others. Once I listen to the other ones again past this, I'll let you know if I find that they kind of do it too. But I feel like this is the one that kind of, that it's like in this ballpark. It doesn't stick to the other songs at all. There are a few lines or parts, I should say, that I do like more than the rest of the song. Part of it is in the pre-chorus where, let me find it really quick. I might have went past it. Okay, so where it's like, I'm patient when you're in pain. That part is probably one of my favorite sounding bits of the song. Like from there to like, I don't know, maybe around here. But that definitely is one of my favorite like parts of the song sound wise, especially with his voice and kind of the drop off in sound a little bit, where it strips it back. It's more acoustic sounding per se. That and the bridge, the bridge, I think why I like it more is that it sounds closer to the way that the other songs on this album do sound. The bridge kind of reverts it back into that sound that the rest of the songs stick to, which I think is why the song is probably on this album, if I had to guess, because that part of the song definitely matches the vibes. The other parts not so much, but specifically the bridge, you can definitely pick it up again. Like it's present, it's there. So I do like the bridge, and again, that like the patient part that's in the pre-chorus. There's one line that I was kind of confused on also this time around. I've never really super analyzed these songs before, so reading it was a little weird. Right here, I'm a growing cancer, the feeling of sleepless nights. I couldn't quite pin down what this means, because on one hand, he could just be saying like he's a cancer in a good way, which is a little weird. Like he's just all over this person, giving them love and like support, where it's like, I'm your serotonin, I'm your burning eyes, don't you cry, I'm here tonight. So it's almost like it's a good cancer, but also you don't hear about cancer in a good light ever. So if that's the case, that's super interesting. A little weird, but super interesting, because that's definitely like a one-of-a-kind thing. Which, let me know if you have heard something similar in another song where they put cancer into a good light. but also maybe it's supposed to be something bad in this context still. I can't really tell. If you happen to know though, let me know, or if you have your own thoughts about that, let me know, because that's definitely an interesting line to me that I don't quite understand. Past that though, I think that's all I got on this song. Anyways, let's get to the next one. Okay, so Hot Tea is definitely up there, I think, for one of my favorites again on this album. It's still kind of hard to say because I love a good amount of songs on this album, being probably all of them, but it's definitely up there. I love how it just immediately it feels more stripped back than every other song on this album at least so far. It's just kind of just the guitar. I think it's a guitar. It's that or it's some other string instrument, but 99% that's a guitar. But I kind of love that, and it kind of gives off you know, like that old, like, kind of, when you think of, like, I'm trying to think of how to put this again.
Spit it out, son, don't be shy.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like those old Chinese songs maybe, or like, I don't know, something in my head is like, yes, this production kind of sounds like it's from some Chinese song or something. I don't know. Either way though, I like the vibes that gives off. It's just nice sounding. What's also interesting about this song is I think his voice is the best in this one out of all of them. Not that he has a bad voice in the other ones, because obviously I love his voice, but this one I think it's almost like he's flexing his vocals and what he can do. He hits some really, really light sounds, and then it just feels really strong and very pretty in this song, more than any other one. I'll let you know if I hear any other songs after this that I think he sings a little bit better, but I think this one might be the best one vocals wise. It sounds so nice. So as for lines, where is it? Oh yeah, right here. The lines right here where there's like the backup vocals kicking in, the endlessly and desperately. I love that. Background vocals can be so good. If you stick around for my live streams and stuff, I tend to mention background vocals a lot because I feel like they always add a lot to the song. Sometimes when I'm singing songs to myself, I'll add in my own background vocals, or I'll just be the backup singer for the lead singer.
You weird, buddy. You're weird.
Call me weird if you want, but I like to do that. Background vocals just hit right for me a lot of times, and this song is definitely a good example of very well done background vocals. And that kind of fits in later on too, because they bring in it's either a choir or just layering of their voices. I don't know. But right here, like looking into your eyes, falling into your lap, sitting at your feet. I think that's where that is. Yeah, that's where it is. That kind of choir sound is awesome. That's something else that I really like in music. Whenever they add choirs in, usually it's towards the end of a song. I think this is pretty close to the end, isn't it? It's about halfway through the song. But either way, choirs in music, they sound so good. And I'm not one to just like listen to only choirs, but I think when people make really good use of them in producing a song, it adds a fantastic element and more for me to love about the song, and just more variation in how it sounds. Plus, just sometimes hearing a group of people or layering of voices, there's something beautiful about that. Like, either if it's a lot of people, it's beautiful to hear that many voices singing all at once, and it's kind of weird to think about people singing like the exact same thing at the same time at like a good, like perfectly. And of course, if it's layered, it's automatically going to be pretty perfectly lined up. But yeah, so I really, really love that. Where's this line at? There's a couple that I wrote down that I really liked. Okay, so the line, "Take it all in life-size bites." When I hear that, I immediately think of like I'm in some like just absolutely gorgeous either national park or just like forest or some part of nature, maybe even like the Grand Canyon or something. I picture myself just taking it all in, and I can never fully take it all in, but I try my best to. That's immediately what I think of. And of course, in this context, he's talking about love, I presume, considering that's like what this whole song is kind of about. And then just life-size bites. It's like it's going through life like in a chunk at a time. I don't know. It's an interesting line, and I really, really like it. I've never heard the term life-size bites, so I don't know. It's also just a new line for me to hear. I don't know if it's specific to this song or if it's something that people say, but I like it. I like that a lot. I don't know. Overall, though, I really, really like the theme of this song. You've fallen in love. This person is so special to you. You have to hold them like hot tea, which brings me to that line, which I think when he says that, it's like he's either saying the significant other's hot, or it could be that and what I'm about to say, or he's saying he's holding this significant other carefully. Did you hold like hot tea, hot coffee, that kind of thing? You have to hold it carefully. I feel like that's in a saying too, because I've heard that like outside of just somebody saying make sure to hold hot tea carefully, but you don't want to mess up. You don't want to mess up what you have. So he holds the significant other very carefully, but also it's like he's not scared to live life with them. I don't know. I just love that chorus. And it sounds awesome too. I love the way he sings that. Going back to how good the vocals are in this song, him singing that bit about the hot tea, I really, really like. One last thing, the outro. The outro with like that chipmunk voice, which I know a lot of people can find like those kind of chipmunk voices annoying when brought into songs. I think if it's done right, it sounds really well, especially in this case because it's less chipmunky because of the vocal effects that they use. It's really similar to, if you know NF, his album The Search, he uses that chipmunk voice in at least one song. It might be two, I don't quite recall, but I think it's pulled off really well on that album too, similar to how it is on this one, where it doesn't sound annoying by any means, and I think it just sounds really good. It almost brings in a whole new emotion. Maybe it's like looking at it through like the eyes of a child or something. Like if a child looks at something that could be simple to an adult, it looks like so cool or awesome to them. That's kind of what I get out of it, where it's the vocals being higher pitched like that kind of revert it back to almost like a childlike view of the world. Everything is so beautiful, everything's so awesome and cool. So yeah, I absolutely love the outro. This song is awesome. It's got to be one of the top ones on this album. I'll see if I'll change my mind though while listening to the other ones. Anyways, let's get to the next one. Okay, move me. So I think I'm already going back on what I said about the last song having the best vocals. I think this one might have surpassed it. I think in specific, obviously the chorus. The chorus is crazy. He just sounds so pretty in those when he's singing those lines in the chorus. I want you to move me. Way better than that, I can guarantee that. That, and then there's another line. There's a line in specific where he's like, I want your knife. Da, 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 da. I think it's the best, my favorite line maybe on the whole album, just because of how he sings it. Okay, yeah. I want your knife to cut the seams. This line is probably my favorite. The way he sings knife is just so awesome. I can't describe it. It's almost, I don't know, it really hits hard, that line. Not necessarily, it doesn't like hit hard, well, it does hit hard emotionally in that like it's so beautiful to hear it that it hits hard, but I don't know, it sounds so good. And I keep on saying that about a lot of the stuff on this album so far, but that line in specific is awesome. I really, really love that line. I'll see if I go back on that in one of the later songs where I think that another line is better, but I think this is probably my favorite line on the whole album just because of how he sings it. So yeah, sorry to go back so quickly on the other song being the best vocals. I think this one just happens to beat it out a little bit.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
I think this one just happens to beat it out a little bit.
That was sus.
So this song as a whole, I feel like it takes a turn to be a lot sadder than the other songs. At least for me, it almost makes me want to tear up a little bit. I don't know if you guys could tell. I don't know if my eyes actually started tearing up or not, but it's got a sadness to it, like a beautiful sadness though. It's not like super sad, but it's sad in a beautiful way. It seems to be almost like a part 2 to Hot Tea. Hot Tea is about like this awesome relationship, while this one seems to be more of like post breakup or like over some like big fight or something happened. And there's certain lines that I think really help kind of show the switch in tone, like starting from the very beginning. I never told, you never asked. So first of all, nobody should have to ask for you to like talk to them, especially if you're in a relationship with them. it shouldn't have to be something that they have to ask you about. You should just be able to openly tell them things. And on the other side of that, though, they should have asked. Like, the significant other should have asked how they were, or like these things. I mean, you can't always know these things, but they probably should have checked in on them to make sure that everything was okay. Because it almost feels like something absolutely terrible was going on in his mind for years. Like, maybe they're like super super depressed, sad, or like there's something that's really been eating at them for years, and they didn't necessarily want to just talk about it. Like, they did, but they kind of kept themselves from doing it. It's kind of like, I've had that feeling. Maybe you have too, so you might get what I'm saying. But then the other person also never asked, because either they didn't realize, or they didn't, it's not that they necessarily didn't care enough, but they maybe thought, it's better left that they don't say anything. Or again, maybe they just never noticed, never realized. Okay, so it feels like he was in love like for a long time, or at least he thought he was. And then there's a line later in the song that I think really highlights this. Okay, well, I was getting used to what I thought was love. So it's like he thought he was in love for like all this time, just to realize maybe it isn't. Where he started questioning this love because things like they weren't open enough with each other, or like one person didn't care as much as they were hoping they would. Like this significant other that he has, they weren't helping him at all get through his own stuff. Not saying that you, in a relationship, you don't have to do that, but like it should be like a give and take situation where like everything that he's doing for this significant other, they should be like doing back, like in a good, healthy way, of course. And it almost, the way that he's describing it, it feels like maybe this was like a one-sided relationship where he felt like he was trying his best, or that he was kind of giving it his all, and he thought that the significant other was too. And then halfway through or something, he just realized maybe this isn't what love really is. Maybe something's not right about this. That's what I'm getting out of this. I don't know. Let me know what you think, because it definitely feels a lot deeper than some of the other songs relationship-wise. And again, it just feels like a part two to the last song where they were in that relationship, and now they're in this kind of either this divot. Again, it could have been an argument, or maybe you just realize it's time that they break up. I don't know. It definitely has like a sad feeling to it, though. There's something lingering in this song that just hurts to hear. But I do love the sound of it, though. I can say that the sound doesn't hurt to hear. I love the sound of it. It's very, very emotional. Oh, I do want to mention, though, in some regards, though, it almost feels like he still really does want to love this person. So, like, in the chorus, he's saying, I want you to move me, throw your weight into me. Obviously, he still has feelings for the significant other, so maybe I could just be wrong about how I'm interpreting this song as a whole. But it feels like maybe there still could be something there, though. Like, maybe it was just an argument. Maybe there's still stuff that they can figure out and fix. I don't know. Okay, I think that's all I got on that one. Let's get to the next one. Oh, wait, this is the final track on the album. I kind of forgot. This album goes by so quick. It all just sounds so good and melds together so well. It just feels like it's moving by so quick. Okay, so that's the final track on the album, Back Around. So I was talking about earlier how Everything Machine kind of has a different tone than the rest of the songs. I think this one's the closest to being different from the rest of the songs too, other than that one, of course. Like, this one almost gets there, but it still feels grounded enough with the rest of the album that it doesn't quite reach that threshold of being different sounding like Everything Machine is. So this one, I realized this one kind of feels like a part 3 to Hot Tea. So we got Hot Tea part 1, part 2, and part 3 here at the end, which I'll get into that later when I'm talking about the whole album as a whole. But it comes back to the changing with the seasons right there. Changing with the seasons. What I assume to be seasonal affective disorder. I assume that's what he's talking about with this, and like he was doing in the first couple songs on the album too, where it's like changing with the seasons, dying with the leaves. Specifically, dying with the leaves, that clicked in my mind, because that comes back to that where it's like when winter and fall hits, when the leaves start dying, that's when he like gets this depressive vibe, this depressive feeling, which is what correlates to that seasonal affective disorder, like I was talking about. So it seems to be a huge part of this album is how this depression hits him each year, and then it says coming back around, where it's like coming back around into summer, it goes away, and then it comes back again in the winter and fall. So I think this song, or this album as a whole, really can have a big effect for people that actually have to deal with that on a year-round basis. So it's something that they can all relate to. Again, I can't really relate to it as much, but I'm glad that it's present in these songs for people that do, like, they can relate to it. Like I've gone through depression and stuff, so like I understand the feeling. I just haven't had the seasonal affective disorder, so I can't quite get that. But I don't know, I love that this is a constant theme and that he's able to share it with his audience for them to really connect to and share their feelings with. Really, it's almost like a sense of therapy. At least that's how I am with songs that talk about stuff that I'm going through. It feels very therapeutic. Also, this one I noticed with the production, which song was it? Was it Everything Machine that I thought was a bit more groovy sounding? I think it was. This one kind of has a little hint of it, which is probably why I feel like it's a bit more out of place, like Everything Machine is. So it's got a little hint of grooviness, nowhere near that previous song. Again, I think it was Everything Machine, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyways, past that, there was a few lines that I think stuck out to me on this one. Okay, yeah. So I've been on my own. That's where I kind of connected the dots from this one with Hot Tea and why did I forget the name? Move Me. Is because he was like in that relationship, and Hot Tea maybe broke up in the other one, and now at this point he's by himself, so he's having to just sit with his own thoughts through winter and fall, because of course it says I've been on my own, changing with the season, dying with the leaves. So he's heading back into that winter and fall season. Maybe that's more of a metaphor, so it might not be actually turning to that, but that's how it feels. I'm not sure. So anyway, that's why I think that this is kind of a part 3. And then also coming back to the line, coming back around, it's almost like he's talking about this is a fresh start. And I think that really hits right here towards the end. There's like an instrumental that kind of drops off the sound, and then it picks it up again when he says, bring it back now, where it's like, it's coming back around. It's a fresh restart. Everything's back again. This is probably when that spring season, summer kind of comes around. I like the idea of a fresh start right before the album. If you're listening to it on repeat, you go back to the very beginning and go through this story again. Also, though, the ending is awesome. It sounds fantastic. It sounds really, really good. I love how he screams, bring it back now. And then the instrumental just picks up and it's crazy. That was awesome. Anyways, I think that's all I got on that one. I'm going to go into my full thoughts on this album. I'll get to that story that I was talking about. I'll start with that actually so I don't forget. So the story that this album seems to be giving off, from what I understand, is like at first, in like the first half of the album, it's like he's hanging out with his friends. He's still in his younger years. Maybe he's just a teenager. Maybe this is like early 20s or something. And he's hanging out with his friends. Maybe he's in a relationship. He probably isn't at this point in time. He's just trying to having as good of a time as possible while dealing with SAD. So that is kind of at least through songs 1 through 3. 4, I'm not so sure about. It feels like it's almost a transition into the second half of the album. So by this point is when he gets into the relationship and things get a bit more complicated. He seems to be missing, or he's not talking about his friends. I don't know if he even talked about them at all in this last half like he was in the first half. So it's almost like they're just not present anymore. This relationship is like taking up a huge chunk of his life, which they tend to do that sometimes. And then again, I was kind of talking about this part of the story. So he's in the relationship. He realizes that it's not quite love, or he's not really sure. He's questioning it. And then eventually he's by himself again for back around. And then it loops back into Make of It. So that's the story that I think I'm picking up on. Maybe I'm just making this all up in my head, but that's what it feels like. I think that's the story that is happening. But yeah, more stuff on the album. I think as a whole, it's got that spacious vibe like I was talking about, where it all feels like it's very just emotional, and raw emotion is constantly hitting you, except for Everything Machine. That could just be me. I don't know. Although based on the listens, I think it's probably a common feeling that everybody feels that song is a bit different than the other ones. But also Back Around is less than that one plays wise, so maybe not. But it's got that kind of spacious vibe. I don't know fully how to describe that. It just feels like, again, those raw emotions are hitting you and you're just kind of vibing to it. You're just in the moment, you're listening to it. Like when I first heard this album, I remember I was so zoned out, I was fully encapsulated by it and just let my emotions flow. I just let it all kind of hit me and let it all kind of just go free. And it's like I was moving to the song, like it moved me per se. Yeah, the whole album just kind of has that vibe, other than Everything Machine and maybe a little bit of Back Around, which I love that vibe. It's that emotional stuff just always hits harder than unemotional songs for me personally. These emotional songs, they get you to think more about your own life. They get you to make these personal connections with the song. You put more thought into the music while you're listening to it. That's why these emotional songs are always so awesome, and I think why this album is so good, which I don't know if I've already mentioned it already. I think I have a few times, but yeah, this album it's a great album. I'm not going to give it a ranking. Those of you that have been around, I don't like to rank albums. I just like to say how I feel about them, and this one I feel really, really good about. It's definitely one of my favorites that I've heard this year. I know it came out last year. I didn't hear it until this one, so that's why I'm saying that. But it's definitely one of the favorites that I've heard this year. It's just the raw emotion carries you so far. It makes you feel a lot of things. It's so easy to listen to. Nothing about it is really abrasive or anything, so you can listen to it often. I think it's got a nice balance between happy and sad, so you can listen to it whenever you're feeling either of those emotions. Like if you're in a happy mood, you could listen to it, and if you're in a sad mood, you could listen to it. Especially the first half, I think you could listen to when you're happy. Second half could be when you're sad. I think it kind of depends on how you look at the song. In my case, I think that's how I would separate the two parts. Yeah, as a whole, once again, I absolutely love this album. Hopefully you do too, but if not, that's okay. I appreciate everybody for sticking around, listening to this review. And let me know if you want to hear more of these, if you want to hear some reactions to Half Alive. I think I still have to listen to one of their albums. Let me check. I haven't listened to Conditions of a Punk. Yeah, that's the only one I haven't listened to. If you want one of these videos on Now Not Yet, let me know. I can make another one for that. Or if you want one for a completely different band, let me know and I'll gladly do it. This was a fun video for me to make. I like talking about music that I like. Of course, that's why this channel exists. Yeah. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know. And leave a like and subscribe if you really liked it. And if you really, really, really liked it, there's going to be a link down below in the description where you can leave a tip to me. It helps me keep on making these videos. They take a lot of time. So hopefully, once again, you enjoyed this. And I'm kind of rambling now. So we'll see you later. Bye-bye.